Go.
Okay. Medical needs like the coronavirus and other outbreaks can happen at any time. Every year, we must be prepared to encounter these threats. So, what healthcare system can best prepare us? Imagine you're caught in the middle of an outbreak, such as what we are going through right now, and you have to make money to help your family survive. But you don't want to risk getting the virus, so you stop going to work. Well, what if your healthcare was connected to that work? Now you don't have any healthcare. My father has been a Canadian for 9 years, so he has experienced Canada's universal healthcare system. And he's also been in the United States health insurance for 10 years working as an agent. Universal healthcare is better than private healthcare because it covers everyone, it is cheaper, it has less cost, and it covers everyone for pandemics, so no one has to fear losing their health care. To begin, I will talk about how universal health care covers more people than private health care. The World Health Organization says that universal health care covers everyone. But of course, as it covers everyone, you can imagine there is a longer waiting period to be treated. Canada's average wait time for treatment and testing is 13.3 weeks. In 1997, Canada had 53 MRIs for 572,000 people, versus the United States in that same year having 2,046 MRIs for 130,800 people. The United States private healthcare system is a for-profit system. But because a pandemic has come along, people do not want to work. So as they are out of work, they've lost their insurance in this US healthcare system. Whereas universal healthcare follows a standard of care, like a government rule book, which is stated in Moffat's article talking about the universal healthcare's standard of care, being as recommended treatments that have already been proven to work and thus should be done for needs of people. Now that I've talked about universal healthcare covers more people than private healthcare, I will talk about how universal healthcare is more affordable than private healthcare. Universal healthcare uses a small tax to fund itself, which is spoken by Riddick in his article of How Universal Healthcare Functions. Bernie Sanders also said in a political campaign that we spend 2 times the amount of money per person for healthcare than most other nations. This also being mentioned in Davis's article of the political campaign. Private healthcare companies negotiate coverages and prices. In 2011, an average of $703 was spent out of pocket for people of all ages with healthcare expenses. This spoken in Matchlin's article of out-of-pocket expenses. And it's a common misconception that with universal health care, there couldn't be a private healthcare system coinciding. But that's wrong, because you can have supplemental private healthcare alongside the universal healthcare system. So no need to worry if you are more comfortable with that, because it will still exist. Now that I've talked about universal healthcare is more affordable than private healthcare, I'll talk about how universal healthcare can protect people from major contagions more universally than private healthcare. In universal healthcare, all tests and equipment exist for all people. It's easily accessible to everyone. And the government funds universal healthcare, so money put into the system funds medical staff and patients, whereas in private healthcare, executives for the insurance use the money gained from people buying it as a salary, which was a measurement of $3 billion in salaries last recorded in this year that could have been used to help people, but instead were used to pay the executives' salaries. Universal healthcare can quickly address pandemics, as no one will be afraid of financial spending. And in Ranabat's article of life expectancy at birth in universal healthcare, the United States life expectancy was 72 in 72 years in 1990, and reached the years of 76 20 years later. And Finland went 10 years without universal health care, lifted their life expectancy from 68 to 70. But in 1972, when they put in their universal health care system, in the following 10 years, their life expectancy went from 70 to 74. So it was a bigger increase than 68 to 70 like before. Lastly, Thailand increased its life expectancy at birth from 70 to 71 before universal health care. But after they put in their universal health care system in 2002, their life expectancy rose from 71 to 74. Now that I've talked about how universal healthcare protects people from major contagions more universally than private healthcare, I will now conclude. I talked about how universal healthcare covers more people than private healthcare, how universal healthcare is more financially feasible, and how universal healthcare results in a healthier societal benefit in pandemics. Universal healthcare has far more benefits than drawbacks when compared to private healthcare. Thank you for listening.